Jews brought, whether it's a mincha or a or what have you, type of offering to measure the oil, the grain, and the frankincense. So what happened was a hand appeared on the wall during this celebration, quote unquote, and predicted many manna, and predicted during Daniel's time, because Daniel was brought to Babylonia too with the exiles. But he was brought 11 years before the final destruction of the first temple, and 3 years before the final destruction, Nebuchadnezzar made a raid in Israel and took all the intelligentsia. So they had all this intelligentsia concentrated in Babylonia, and they set up yeshivas. They always wondered, how could the country of Babylonia produce such Jewish scholars when they were just recently murdered and the temple destroyed? That's because they had these people set up yeshivas and schools of learning prior to the destruction. So when the people came back, all the institutions were in the hands of the religious people who taught Torah. And today, what do we have? The day school movement. How much can you get out of a day school movement? Oh, I'm religious, I send my child to the day school. But the point is, you're only getting 3 hours of Jewish subjects, and then the rest of the day is secular subjects, and you have all kind of extracurricular activities, whether it be basketball or all kind of sports, and they practice sessions, and the whole time is wasted. And so when they get out of school, I mean, they're not really knowledgeable in Torah, and many of them are turned off. So that's why their schooling is unlike the Haredi. The Haredi, they're very serious about their Judaism, and not call them ultra Orthodox, whatever that means. But they had the tradition from Sinai, and they have in their school system a very big emphasis on the fear of heaven. That they have been given instructions regarding the creation and all the things that we see in our environment, that they are put there by God. They just didn't happen. And one of the things they do is on Shabbos, and that we all should do, is look at contemplating God's phenomenon. Contemplating God's phenomenon. That's what we should be doing. Take a phenomenon that we have in around us, whether it be the plants that are growing through photosynthesis, being that the sun is 93 million miles away, and just happened to be in the right spot accidentally to produce the fruits and vegetables that are produced by the action of the sunlight on the green of the plant, and to produce these resulting fruits, together with the natural drawing up of the minerals and vitamins from the fruit, from the ground, all bound together and giving us greens and vegetables, all coincidentally necessary for bodily growth and life. And that's what we should be doing. Look, God made a Bible. He gave the Bible to the Jewish people because they desired it and they earned it, because God saw in the future they will be the ones that will be the surrogate carrying out the instructions of God through the events that happen in the Torah. Because once the Torah is given, and there is a cutoff period, so that's the end. There's no more. The men of the General Great Assembly made a cutoff period. That was Shimon HaTzadik and those prophets, Malachi, Zechariah, were the last of the prophets who put an end to prophecy. There was a Bas Kol came later, but prophecy was terminated. So what we have is 70 years of Nebuchadnezzar, evil Merodach, and Belshazzar saw the hand on the wall writing that the kingdom is going to only to last until the Persians took it over. And the first one who defeated Belshazzar the next day was the Mede Darius, who is connected with the Persians. And after Darius came Cyrus. Right? After Darius came Cyrus. Now it's interesting to note that this is the Persian reign now. Now the Jews are still enslaved. And in the book of Isaiah, he speaks of Koresh who will rebuild the temple. Now, detractors want to say, Isaiah, the book of Isaiah is written in two parts, one before and one much later in time. But it's not so. It's not so. You see, Cyrus in Persia was shown the book of Isaiah, and where he is mentioned as being the one that's going to start the building of the second temple. And that's why he began building it. Not because, I love the Jewish people. No, but he saw the prophet saying, Isaiah, that you're going to be Koresh, is his name, in chapter 45 in Isaiah. So he starts the building. And it took 70 years. What did I want to say? 70 years. So 70 years they took the building. So they had the command, we can go return to our land. And how many people came? Approximately 43,000 Jews came from Babel all the way to the land of Israel to build their temple. They met up with a very stiff resistance. First of all, there were very few women. They couldn't marry. Second of all, the Samaritans, evil people. The media plays them up as the greatest people, the good Samaritans, because they did a great act. No, they're evil. They only wanted to stop the Jews and only wanted to tell lies of what they were planning to do as far as revolting against the king of Persia, Cyrus. Samaritans, they are evil. While the Pharisees, who are the carriers of the oral Torah, are the great ones, and they are made as evil. They have it just the opposite, just the other way around. What I want to say, the Pharisees. So what happened was that we are in, so they're in bad shape. Now, did Ezra, some say Ezra was Malachi, one of the last of the prophets. That's another name for Ezra, they said. Ezra did not go down with the 43,000 to build the temple. He stayed with Baruch ben Nadira, I believe that's his name. Baruch ben Neriah, Baruch ben Neriah, who was a student of Jeremiah. And Ezra did not leave Babel until Baruch ben Neriah died. then he came down to Israel, and he had some authority, and he put into place many things. Later on, an advisor to Cyrus, right? Cyrus caused the building to be started, to be built. Nehemiah came down with an authority from the king, and who gave him powers to rule. Who gave him powers to rule over the Canaan and the Samaritans. And the temple went up fast. It went up fast, that it was completed in 70 years. And then we have the Samaritans continuously talking evil against the Jewish people. It even went to Alexander the Great, who took over the rule of the Persians. The Persians that had Darius, Cyrus, Ahasuerus, who was the father of Esther, and then came Darius II and Cyrus II. But look, these sources were these are not like Gratz, who is completely unobservant and makes history sound altogether different than what it should be. And where I'm getting it from is Torah Nation by Miller, again by Miller, Torah Nation by Miller, which brings Talmudic sources to bear and to understand like the best that I could give over to you. So that's another one. Get Behold the People, get Torah Nation, which is a follow-up to Behold a People, because Behold the People in chapter 10 lists all the kings, and it makes it easier to understand, because a lot of times the kings were had the same names from Judah and the kingdom of Israel. So these children had a lot of times it was difficult to understand who it was talking about. It was harder. So that's a little bit about history, and there is a lot to talk about as far as belief in the Torah, and especially the Jewish people who were given that charge to keep the instructions that were handed down. Because in the Bible it says, in a beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and then it says the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters, right? And what was it mean? Hovering. It was wanting to find someone who would be a surrogate to God on this earth, to follow and to act according to God's teachings, right? And that's what the Bible is. It's a schematic, historical account of the events that transpired, showing God's teachings, thoughts, and basic ideology. So that's why it's so important that you read this and learn these books of the Bible. First, you can tell your friends, you can follow it again on Yeshiva Classroom. Google search Yeshiva Classroom. I also put out a book. I don't recommend it until after the other books you read, but it's basically Judaism Makes Sense, and you can get it here. Judaism Makes Sense, and you can get it at Judaica Press in Cedarhurst. So that's what happened. Now you say, well, God came down the thickness of the cloud in 19. Again, first of all, there are many people that were righteous people that realize that there's one God. Because after a while, in the third generation, you have Seth and his descendants worshiping the servants of God, the sun and the moon. But you have Methuselah, you have Noah, Gentiles should follow the 7 laws of Noah, because we're not asking people to convert. We don't want anybody to convert because it's a difficult job. You just can't say, I want to be a Jew and then not keep it, and not keep the commandments. Right over there it says, in Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 28, it says over there that I will address the hidden transgressions, but it is up to you to address those transgressors who openly transgress. And that's what we have, the atheists amongst us, and the non-affiliated, the Reform and the Conservative and the Reconstructionists, and all these Messianic Jews all want to create the wheel over again. And we're the only ones that survive. The Masorah Jews that we took from Sinai. And not that Mara Judy came along and said, hey, look, it makes sense. You don't need to keep these laws. This is the 21st century. Look, Mara Judy has a nice personality. She's pleasant. She sounds smart. She knows what she's talking about. But the point is, the Orthodox, they have gotten a education which predates all of this Rabbi Judy's. And they predate their learning. They're going back all the way to the oral Torah, where it was given at Mount Sinai, and it was given in the form of Mishnayos, and from the Mishnah you could learn the Gemara, and until it went down to the Tanoim, Amoraim, and finally it was written down because it got too cumbersome. But we have all of that. These are your rabbis. They don't think, oh, it makes sense to do it this way. It's 21st century. Everything is applicable. They didn't have any automobiles in the time the Torah was given. But we went and searched how the automobile works, and it transgresses one of the 39 prohibited acts. 39 prohibited acts you can't do on the Sabbath. I mean, Amara Judy, who the hell is she? She coming out here, I'm a nice guy, I smile, I get good, I'm a rabbi, I get day. We don't need 21st century. Don't go against these people of the observant from Masorah. Although I have a lot to criticize because they're not giving, they're natural people that are born with the inclination to learn Torah and to be Torah observant. They go to synagogue regularly, but they don't get into the next race. They're only stuck in the same slot that habitually they will come to the synagogue on a regular basis, and so will their descendants. But that's not how it is. You see, it's like a one-room classroom. Some people are learned, some people are not learned, don't appreciate learning. So those people, you say, wow, look, this big synagogue. There's a group of people here that are learning together. Right, they're learning together after the prayers in the morning. Right? Oh, that's good. But that's a very small percentage. In Young Israel of Woodmere, in Cedarhurst, in Woodmere, next to Cedarhurst and Hewlett, a very big synagogue. They must have about 6 o'clock minyan, 6:30 minyan, 7:30, 8:30, and 9:15 every morning. So after the prayers, they have little groups that, maybe 10% of the congregants are in the group and trying to learn from a teacher. They probably get something out of it. But the rest of us, we don't, we're not even on first base, so how are we going to participate in that type of a class? And that's why I approached the rabbi and I told him, I said, listen, you have to implore the people to take with them a book, whether it be the Talmud, right? It's all in English. And it's in English. And it's mind-boggling. You get the Talmud, you get Rabbi Millers' works. I said, don't give speeches. These people want to rush. Let the people work. Take it upon them to do 20, 25 minutes a day during the day. When you're walking, when you're waiting for the subway, when you're sitting on the train, whatever it is, 25 minutes. So I don't know if they're going to change any kind of a style because, you're out there too. You see what's there. You see what is there. Who are we fooling? We know that we have to learn. We have to understand what we're saying. And that means not going to a rabbi or a teacher because he knows the work. He prepared the teacher. He prepared for the lesson. We need people to do work. They have to do the work. Now, I dropped this on the floor. So you have to do the work. That's how simple as it is. So you say, well, busy. But the rabbi has to tell the people 20 minutes during the day, try it. Every minyan, the group that meets. And you have to tell your rabbi to implement something like that, where the people can work and not just be receptacles, not to listen. It's not effective that way. Look, I have a list. Chabad. I'm not Chabad, but I mean they're Torah people, and they have a list of Chabad welcoming houses. In this area, must be hundreds throughout the world. The last one they opened in South Dakota about a year ago. But here, in Suffolk County, I could go all over America, but I don't have the resources of funds and manpower to do that. If you want to try to help out, you're welcome to do so. But otherwise, you have in Suffolk County the welcoming houses, Bayshore, Comac, Coram, Dix Hills, East Hampton, Huntington Melville, Huntington Village, Montauk, Patchogue, Southampton, Stony Brook, Lake Grove, Stony Brook College, Watermill, West Hills, in Nassau County, Adelphi, Brookville, Cedarhurst, East Meadow. It goes on and on. The point is, if you're near that area and you feel funny about going into a synagogue, right? You feel funny. But go to one of the, look up Chabad, Chabad, the one closest to you, right? Closest to your neighborhood. And come there on the Sabbath. They are welcoming. They open the doors. They treat you like royalty. They treat you like royalty, and they have a scrumptious food afterwards. Always giving. So that's your first step. Get into a Chabad on Saturday morning. And then we can unify our people together, because then you will learn. Although they have the same mentality of teaching and preaching and doing all the talking and doing all the work, which is not so. Although they have in their midst a booklet that you work on that has that has a little bit of Gemara and Mishnah and Chumash that the students work on. The students work on that every day. But for the common guy, they don't give him credit for the knowledge that he did. So there's a pasuk in the Torah, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 47. Because you did not serve the Lord your God with joy and happiness of heart, then I will send your detractors, your enemies, and you will serve them without water, without food, and you will go down you will go down. You will be brought down. That's 28:47. Because you did not serve the Lord your God and joy and happiness, then I will send your enemies and your detractors. And that's what happened. You think that this didn't happen? Chapter 28, verse 15 on. It says, if you don't do the commandments, Lord, these are the French Jews prior to being sent out to Auschwitz, and that's where they went, to Auschwitz, and they had to wear the star on their clothing because they were enemies. You think that it was Hitler knew what he was doing? He was an evil person, and God caused that evil to exert itself and do harm to the Jewish people because they did not go after and live by the commandments that was incumbent upon the Jewish people to do. And Exodus chapter 19 verse 6, chapter 19 in Exodus, God speaks to the Jewish people. It says, you saw how the abominations in Egypt and how I carried you out on wings of wings of eagles, and how I carried you out on wings of eagles. There was a movie like that, Wings of Eagles, I think. How I carried you out on wings of eagles. Eagle carries its young on its wings, not on its feet, because no one can get higher than an eagle. Anyway, so what happened? God said to the people, do the mitzvahs. Read chapter 19 Exodus, and you will be a treasured people. You will be a treasured people amongst all the nations of the world. And you will be a kingdom of priests. And the people said, Naaseh, we shall do. We shall do. And that's what they said. The whole congregation, all the people who left Egypt and saw all these miracles. We shall do. We will keep the commandments and be like a surrogate to God. And God, it came down in the thickness, 19:6 or 19:9, the thickness of a cloud, and spoke to Moses, so that the people could hear and they would believe forever. The people could hear the sound of God speaking to Moses, and they will believe forever. And they said, Nasa, we shall do. We shall do, without even learning what it means, we shall do. So what happened over there? We shall do. So he gave the 10 commandments, right? At that point. 10 commandments. Second commandment is that you should have no other God before you. Now the Messianic Jews, whoever they are, they say, well, we have a Jesus man God, and we also have the God of Moses. So we make a combination, and we see the light, and we can have both. But that's wrong. The second commandment said you should have no other God before you. And it also means that when the Messiah comes, there will be peace throughout the world. All the peoples of the world will gravitate to Judaism. They'll grab the tzitzis of the Menza Fanya and look it up, and they will believe in the one God. So where is this happening? So how How could the Messiah have come? He hasn't come. We're waiting for him daily. So where are we? That's a good question. So that's what happened in chapter 19 Exodus, right? Chapter 19 in Exodus.